Hello, and welcome to the premiere episode of the Audacity to Be Happy podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Morano-Burke, and today we are having the audacity to be happy about my story. Today, the tables will be turned on me, and I will be sitting in the guest speaker chair as I am interviewed by my dear friend, Caroline Tripp, who will be an ongoing guest host and a contributor to the Audacity to Be Happy community. Thank you, Caroline, for joining us today. I would choose you over and over again to be the person who is sitting right beside me as we embark on this journey towards sharing our Audacity to Be Happy story. Caroline and I met in high school, and even though I wouldn't say we were close friends, we were definitely friendly and always very respectful of one another. We ran in different circles, but we had a common thread, and that was kindness and happiness always, right? We laughed a lot in between the moments. Little did we know that our paths in our life would take us down the road less traveled. The bumpiest kind of road with twists and turns and challenges that would take many people out of the game. I don't say this to be dramatic, but it's really what happened. So today it's my turn to sit in the guest chair as Caroline asks me a few important questions about what are we doing here? Caroline, thank you for being here with us. I'm open and ready for any question that you have because my goal is to make sure that this community understands we're not here out of ego. We are out here sharing of our hearts for important reasons, and it's so that everybody understands they're not alone. We are all here together in this wild journey of life, and we are all experiencing trials and tribulations and challenges. And how do we find the audacity to be happy in those moments? And that's what this is about. So, Caroline, I'm here. Whatever questions you have for me, I'm ready.
Well, Michelle, thank you for having me here today. It is just such an honor and pleasure to share this moment with you. I have no words. I mean, we have shared so many things over the years. And I think when we were 14 years old, walking into high school together, I don't think we would ever expect that the two of us would be here today.
No.
And it just is sitting on my heart and just such a blessing. But I just have to tell our audience, the reason why I am here today is I've been watching this amazing woman from afar through social media for so many years. And in the last year, she has just branched out and blossomed and has been so raw and honest about who she is. So I would say a month ago I called up Michelle and I said, let's set aside some time to have a conversation. I am so just energized by what I see in you, and it has given me a new life. And what was it? We spent, I think, 2 hours on the phone.
Yeah, we unpacked a lot in 2 hours. I don't think we came up for a breath of air. And my nickname, I have several of them, but was Tangent, right? I go off on these tangents. But yeah, it was a beautiful 2-hour journey through years of what's going on in our life and how did we get here. But holy cow, did we know in that moment that whether or not we had planned it, that somebody else had a bigger picture for us and that was magic. And we needed to lean into whatever that magic was because I was only going to be as good as I was going to be in myself, but adding another layer of somebody else's story and somebody else's wisdom was going to be really, really impactful. So what I want to say is that Caroline's going to be a guest host regularly with us. Yes, this is my baby, and I can't wait to tell you more about how it came about, but just know she's my number one babysitter. It's like having your mom available to babysit your baby. That's what it feels like. It feels that comfortable, right?
I know it does. And we just picked up where we left off, right? I mean, so many years have passed, but it's amazing how you end up being placed in someone's life for a reason. And when I kept on hearing Michelle say the word audacity, I'd get online every day and I'd be looking for her to be talking about audacity. So the first thing I would like to kind of ask you is, where did that word come from? And why did it become your mantra? I mean, every day Michelle is out there saying, I have the audacity to be happy, and you can too. So tell us a little bit about that word and what it does. What does it mean to you?
Well, let me unpack the fact that I am, and no one's probably going to be surprised at this, but I am a New York City Italian girl. I did what you call the Italian migrating pattern. I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Staten Island. So my Staten Island people, you know what's up. And then I raised my family in New Jersey and then moved to Florida. But in my years growing up, I was always told, you have the audacity to do this. And it was always in like a negative way, like the audacity. And all audacity means is the boldness. So growing up, I thought the word audacity was a bad word. And, you know, I didn't think that it would ever mean anything more than, wow, she's really brazen. Look at her. Who does she think she is, right? But just saying the same sentence in my adult years, who does she think she is? I know exactly who I am. I'm somebody who is bold enough to look in the face of things that were meant to kill me. And I know that sounds crazy, but yes, I've had near-death experiences. I've had emotional breakdowns. You know, I went from 320 pounds, yes, and not for a minute, like for over a decade. And how did I get here? 160 pounds. I had the audacity. I had the boldness. I had the fire. I had the guts. I had the passion to find a way to be okay amidst adversity and amidst things that happen to everybody. You know, what I learned recently, Caroline, is that the word audacity gives me the ability to own what's going on in my life. I'm audacious about my life. I am bold. I don't let life just happen to me. I take it. I understand it. I learn from it. I move through it, and I go on, right? So audacity in 2023 as a 53-year-old just means I'm bold, I'm brave, I'm strong, I'm confident, and I'm going to take my life in that kind of way. I'm going to be that bold about my happiness, about my peace. And it's not about me. It's about how can I share that with others? How can I do that by interviewing incredible people who have been through the most horrific experiences in life? Death, loss of everything, money, loss of health, loss of their mind, right? Things that are hard to talk about. And I'm bold enough and I have the audacity to talk about the stuff that people don't like to talk about. That's who I am. That's what audacity means to me.
And how did you come to decide to do a podcast? I mean, we spoke about writing a book, maybe doing a blog, looking at other ways that you could bring your story to the masses. So how did the podcast come about?
I think this is a great question, and I think it's something that a lot of people will resonate with. So a lot of people have lives that are interesting, page turners. How many people do you know that have said, I need to write a book? Or somebody tells them, you need to write a book. Well, I've been told that umpteen times over decades now, because I do. I have a page turner life. I always say there should be a video camera following me. Before reality TV came about, I was like, they should be watching me. This is good television. It may not feel good in life, but it was really good television. So I embarked on writing, and I had been journaling for years on and off as a methodology to deal with my pain, my hurt, my trials, and trying to get through things. And it's therapeutic. And then I realized as I was writing, not only was it healing, but I realized that other people needed to hear things so that they don't feel alone on the planet. I mean, I make a joke all the time. Hello, God, it's me, Michelle. Am I here alone? What's going on? Right? That book that we read when we were a kid. Hello, God, it's me, Margaret. Is that what it was? So
Yes.
So it started as a book. I don't want to unpack all of this now because there's going to be many episodes, but you're going to hear a lot about my relationship with my mother, because it's profound. It's profoundly beautiful and profoundly painful in her loss. But what I'll tell you is I stepped away from a successful job, something that I thought I wanted badly, and I stepped away so that I can be with my mom in her last months of her life and I can be her caretaker. And during that time, I wanted to use it wisely. Other than caring for my mother, I wanted to start writing the book. So I got 6 chapters deep and I sobbed daily, hours a day for 6 chapters. I was opening up wounds that were, I thought, healed and they weren't. And it was painful. And I was already going through the pain of letting my mother go day by day. And I realized that the book is cathartic. And the book was about more of my ego and my own personal healing than it was going to be able to reach the masses. And, my spirituality allows me to know that God is guiding my ship. And not only is he guiding it, he is the master of my journey and my path. And that's my story, right? I honor everybody's faith and where you come from. And I don't think one's better than the other. But what I'll tell you is God made it crystal clear that a book wouldn't reach the masses, that the book is inevitable, but it's more like a side piece. He said, I gave you a voice. I need you to use it. I gave you, and this is going to sound a little conceited, but I'm going to share it with you. I gave you a face that is beautiful. I need you to show up. I need you to take care of yourself. You took yourself from 320 pounds. You brought yourself to this place. The only reason I am as beautiful as I am on the outside now is because I leaned into what God gave me on the inside. I swear by that. No, I haven't had plastic surgery to my face after losing 160 pounds. I dabbled 3 times with Botox. Every time it was not worth it. This is me being me. And I'm this beautiful because my insides are beautiful. And he said, people will relate. They want to talk to you. They want to see you. They want to hear your New York accent. They're not going to be thinking it's annoying. And the ones that do, if they stay on board long enough, they're going to fall in love with you because you're pure of heart, because you have no skin in the game to hurt anybody. All you're trying to do is share from your soul because you know somebody out there needs you so that they don't feel that they're alone in their life going through the really tough stuff. And that's what we're going to unpack on this. So I kind of went a little off, but that's going to happen. And we got to lean into that, but then reel it back in. So I'm going to reel it in and pray I answered your question fully. But yeah.
Oh, definitely.
That's where we're at.
You'll find when we get together, right? It's so easy for us to go off on tangents, but it's always meaningful. There's always a reason why we're brought there. But as you were just talking about this, there were a few things that really hit me. And one of the things that I recall about you when we were younger is that in school, you always came to school, always poised, always put together, always the friend, the listener, someone who was there to support the other girls around you. And for some background for the audience, Michelle and I went to an all-girls Catholic school. So needless to say, it was a very tough environment to be in certain times, but also a blessed place to be. And I think sometimes I like to say that it's a good place to be from, not necessarily a good place to be in at times. But Michelle was always the fixer of everything. And she sort of had that reputation. If a friend was in trouble, they went to Michelle because they knew Michelle would be there. And even though she was going through some of the toughest times at a very young age, she dealt with loss. She dealt with grief, the loss of her father. And I remember her coming into school just so graciously. And having suffered through my own grief and loss as an adult, I'm just wondering, Michelle, what was it at that time, at such a young age, that you were able to have the strength to always come through and be so cheerful and supportive of others, even in your most difficult time?
I don't know if my answer is going to be what anybody's expecting to hear, but I am going to unpack it. So buckle up. On the outside, it appeared as strength. God gave me the ability to be strong enough on the outside, subconsciously, not consciously. I was in a wonderful environment of godliness, but it wasn't touching my soul. I didn't even understand what my faith meant at all at that age. I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 12 years. That's where I met Caroline in high school. But what I can tell you is I was suffering terribly. And instead of dealing with my own pain and my own hurt, I thought it was really important to help others, mostly because as a kid, I thought if I helped them, and this is not how it's supposed to be, but if I helped them, somebody was going to help me. Somebody was going to come and help me because I was a sad, sad 14-year-old girl who lost her father. And it changed my life. It changed everything. And I became the happy fat girl, right? Happy all the time, smile on the outside, suffering terribly on the inside. I was a suicidal teenager. Nobody knew that. I shouldn't say nobody. A handful, and they know who they are, knew that on the outside, I always had the makeup, the hair, everything that was supposed to, be perfect as a teenage girl. But I contemplated, how do I get off this planet? Often. I didn't want to be on the planet anymore. I didn't want to grow up without a family. So, on top of that, I was always told, that I had manic depression, right? And what manic depression is, whether or not anybody wants to hear this either, manic depression and bipolar, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a doctor and I'm not pretending to be, it's one in the same. You have high highs and low lows. Some are more dramatic than others. Mm-hmm. I suffered from that as long as I can remember. I either was taking over the world or I couldn't get out of bed. And I did a really good job at being an actress and covering it up from a very young age. So nobody knew. People ended up finding out when at 17, I took an enormous amount of pills and had to have my stomach pumped. We'll unpack that later. But yes, I wanted to be there for everybody else in a selfish way because I wanted somebody to be there for me. What happened positively from that is that as I got older and understood what all of that was about, is that I really was an empath. Mm-hmm. Who knew what an empath was at 14? I don't have a clue. I didn't know what an empath was, but I was an empath. I should have tissues in here. Let's just keep that note. Mental note, everybody. Producer, tissues in the room while I'm recording, because this is always going to be a thing, because I'm never going to be on here scripted. So just the fast version of it is, as an empath, I feel people and I'm a lover. I'm walking love. I always want to love on people. Nothing brings me more joy than to love on people. I am a giver. I'm learning to be a receiver. That's part of my journey. No matter how much wisdom I try to impose on these podcasts, I want you to know I am a work in progress. I may have made major leaps and bounds, but I'm a work in progress. So I'll sum it up by saying I'm an empath, I'm a lover, and I'm a giver. And that's why in these early years of my life, while I was suffering, I was able to give. I hope that summed that up.
It's so beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing. And when I look at you, all I see is such transformational growth. I mean, from this 14-year-old girl to this 53-year-old woman who is not afraid to share herself with people that are willing to listen. And we know, like I know, I was drawn so much to you because I've sat in certain situations that you have, different experiences, but very much the same feeling. So I hope that the audience, as they're listening today, that they will, come back for more so they can hear those stories and get more in depth with us and also share with us their stories. But what I wanted to ask you is, with this growth, we talk a lot about transformation. And I see sometimes you wear a butterfly necklace. And to me, it's like you're this butterfly in constant transformation from the caterpillar to the beautiful butterfly and experiencing so much growth. So tell me what that growth means to you.
So transformational growth, that's one of those taglines nowadays that people use in the self-help world. And they're like, what does that mean? It means to me that in order to transform, you have to go through some really uncomfortable processes to grow. The expression growing pains is the real deal, right? We have to really understand that that wasn't somebody like, let me call it growing pains and then let's make a show about it. No. Growth is painful. So most people, because it's so painful, will avoid it. But when you experience transformational growth, things that transform you from who you were to who you were meant to be with intention, that's where the magic is. So for me, I want to share that how on purpose today was. And this is the kind of transformational growth that happens when you are in alignment with exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So I got up this morning like I had rocket fuel for breakfast, which I had my Celsius. So everybody knows Celsius is my go-to. Hello? Yes, rocket fuel. So I drank my Celsius at like 5 a.m. this morning. And all I can think about is how lucky am I that on the day that I'm going to record my podcast, that Joyce Meyer is at my home church, Christ Fellowship. Stop. Like, I couldn't have planned that better. It was everything I needed it to be today. And then I knew without even thinking about it, I didn't put any preconceived notion on what the sermon would be about today. I just knew for sure it was going to be for me and for others, but definitely for me. So I always sit in the back. And not because I'm trying to hide. I'm going to tell you why I sit in the back. I walk into that space and the Holy Spirit is in there moving through me and I am a mess. I am crying. I am snot crying. I am not cute at all. I don't wear makeup to church. Sometimes I'll throw on lipstick because it looks like I have makeup on. I have nothing on because I'm going to cry and I'm going to have streaks down my face. But I'm moved often. And so I sit in the back. But something led me to sit in the third row center, knowing that Joyce would be looking right in my eyeballs. And darn if she didn't say all the things about transformational growth, metamorphosis, talking about the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. And how does that even happen? It's like a baby turning into a monkey. Like, what's happening? Like, she didn't say that. I just made that weird thing up, but just ignore me because that's Michelle. But first of all, I've always had a thing for butterflies. Caroline mentioned it. I have my heart on. I have butterfly tattoos. And yes, I know that God created perfect vessel and I probably shouldn't put tattoos on it, but I'm going to ask for forgiveness for that as well. But that transformational growth, when she was talking about converting from this thing that slithers across the ground in the dirt and then it becoming this beautiful thing flying through the air, it was such a visualization of what's gone on in my life. And how do you quantify that? What does that mean? I transformed physically. I went from 320 to 160. I transformed financially, back and forth several times. I went from making 300,000 a year to 30,000 and trying to find my way back up. And in all of that, still finding a way to have the audacity to be happy. Mm-hmm. From 320, when I was 200, when I went back up a little, when I was making 300, and then I was raising 4 kids on $30,000 a year and trying to not let them find out that's what was happening. Still trying to figure out, how do we go to a concert on this money? I don't know. I figured it out somehow. It happened, right? I went from with my manic depression and whatever mental health diagnosis I was given over the years, a bag full of pills, a bag full, not 3 or 4 pills, a bag full. I didn't even know what I was taking. I didn't know how they were mixing. All I know is it was a disaster for me. I'm not saying anybody should come off of medication. That's doctor stuff. I'm not a doctor. I'm never going to pretend to be one. All I can tell you is through my growth, through my transformational process, through my awareness and my healing, I've been able to get rid of that. So that transformational growth was amazing. And one of the things that was really, really important to me was that I had religion in my life for many, many, many years, right? Catholic school, religion. But then I didn't have faith. I didn't know what faith was, but what I can tell you is pretty exciting when you decide to have a personal relationship and have conversational relationship in your faith in God. And if it's not God for you and it's Buddha, I respect all faith. For me, God and I decided to have a personal relationship. And when I did that, this transformational growth was profound because now Joyce was talking about, you can't even put it into words. I can't put into words what's happening, but I'm going to try on this podcast because, gosh, do I want everybody to feel what I'm feeling, which is peace and freedom. And 53 years on the planet, I looked for that. I raised a beautiful family. I had many blessings along the way. But peace has been something that evaded me, but not anymore.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, what an inspirational story and so perfect for this day. One of the things that has really been put forth to me is there's so many people out there that are struggling, and you have really put together your thoughts and understanding of where you want this podcast to go. So tell me why this is a little bit different from any other podcast out there.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people share from a place of transparency. The gift that I have right now is my transparency really only affects me. My children are grown. My responsibility towards my mother's care is now lifted as she's in heaven. And this is the first time in my life that I'm aware that I can be all of me and share it all without worries about how much it will impact others. So my promise is to not only share my gift that God's given me for the ability to share my story, but He's also given me the gift of being able to bring out really difficult things in other people and allow them the space to have their transparency. So I'm going to lean into that gifting, and I'm going to have some really deep, important conversations about topics that are difficult to talk about, but essential for all of us to live a much healthier and happier life. So we're going to interview people who have lost their legs, either from a car accident or from a military experience where they were protecting our country. We're going to talk to people who lost children in different ways. We're going to talk to people who have lost their well-being and health due to many different things. People who worked on Wall Street and made tons of money and then had nothing and didn't know how to pick themselves back up. Or even the most recent, COVID happened and affected a lot of people, not a lot, all of us, but some people in very profound ways that they're not back to norm yet because their business, their industry, their profession no longer exists the same way, and they didn't know how to pivot and navigate, and they're struggling, and how it affected people in their mental health and how it affected our children. It's different. I know that what I'm doing is not based on my wants, my needs, my wishes. There is a bigger entity guiding this podcast. And I was afraid to put it that way because I didn't want people to think that I'm going to be preaching, because that's not who I am, as much as I want to share my experiences with God, and I'm proud to. And yes, I have passion for my faith, but it really is meant for the masses. So I don't want to alienate anyone because I think it's relatable no matter who you follow. So I think the transparency is going to be extremely different. I think the delivery is going to be extremely different. I think the rawness, I think the fearlessness, and I think the audaciousness of how I'm about to go on this journey and unpack things that are difficult to talk about. But I also don't want to just tell stories. I want to be a vehicle that provides a solution or solutions. A solution can't be cookie cutter. We all have different pieces to our puzzles. So because of that, we have to give a variety of different things that you can lean into and use in your toolbox to give you the solution to where you are at and what you need at that moment. So we're going to interview people who work with trauma, healers of all different types of modalities, something as simple as yoga to complex trauma healing. I mean, there's scream therapy. There's all sorts of things. Let's unpack that and at least make people aware what's out there for them. I'm going to do all that work. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to get the best of the best. We're going to get them on the podcast, and we're going to give you the tools. That's my goal.
I think one of the best things is you always say that you're a student of life, but today you have been a fabulous professor to me. And I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to share this with you. I look forward to unpacking your story more and just to participate in this wonderful adventure ahead.
Let me just wrap it up with saying this. What's coming next? What can follow this introduction to what the Audacity to Be Happy is going to be about? And I'm going to just tell you, I'm going to dig deep. My next guest is going to be the one and only Caroline Tripp, who is interviewing me today. When you hear Caroline's story, I'm telling you, bring your tissues. But I want you to also bring an open heart. Caroline's story is difficult to hear at first, but the joy that comes behind watching somebody not only survive what was meant to bring them down, but to thrive through that and then gift others because of what they've been through. Caroline's that person. Caroline's going to share her very personal journey of loss. And then she's going to share what she's chosen to do with her life since that loss. And there's no mistake why I chose Caroline to be here alongside me today. I did not know this is how it was going to go. I thought this was going to be the Michelle Show. Little did I know, right? A month ago, that all changed, and we're going to take this journey together. So let's just say this. This has been your first episode of the Audacity to Be Happy. Please do your very best to continue to spread happiness and joy by liking, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review wherever you listen to your favorite shows. And remember to post your happy photos all over social media. And we are going to build the hashtag A2BH, which stands for the Audacity to Be Happy. Have a wonderful week, everyone. And thank you, Caroline.